The frozen wind cut through the settlement like a knife. Landon Greer pulled his jacket tighter, scanning the snow-covered plains beyond the perimeter fence. 3 months on this ice world, and he still wasn't used to the cold that settled deep in your bones, the kind that made you forget what warmth felt like. He'd signed on as a supply contractor, bringing food and equipment to the mining outpost at the edge of mapped space. Simple work, honest work. The kind that didn't ask questions about where you'd been before. The distress beacon changed everything. It flickered on his scanner just before sunset, weak and intermittent. A civilian frequency, barely 5 kilometers out. Landon stared at the readout, jaw tight. The regulations were clear. Report it to Station Command. Let them handle it. Don't go out alone after dark. Don't take unnecessary risks. He was in his transport before he finished thinking about it. The snowdrifts made the going slow. His headlights carved twin tunnels through the gathering darkness, illuminating nothing but more snow, more ice, more emptiness. The beacon grew stronger as he drove, its signal pulling him forward like a thread. When he found them, his heart stopped. 2 figures lay collapsed in the snow beside a crashed shuttle, its hull torn open like paper. They were massive, easily 9 feet tall even lying down. Their skin shimmered with a faint iridescent quality, pale blue-white, like winter itself. They wore tattered environmental suits that had clearly failed, their bodies curled together for warmth that wasn't there. Aliens, starving, dying. Landon killed the engine and grabbed his emergency kit. His hands shook as he approached, and not from the cold. He'd heard the stories. Every human had. First contact had happened less than a year ago, and already the galaxy was proving more complicated than anyone had imagined. The nearer one stirred as he knelt beside her. Her eyes opened, multifaceted like cut gems, reflecting his flashlight in 1,000 tiny points. She tried to speak, her voice a melodic whisper he couldn't understand. "It's okay," he said, knowing she probably couldn't understand him either. "I've got you." He worked quickly, checking vitals with shaking hands. Hypothermia, definitely. Severe dehydration, starvation. But alive. They were both alive. Getting them into the transport took 20 minutes and every ounce of strength he had. They were dead weight, their bodies limp and unresponsive. He cranked the heat to maximum and began the slow journey back to the settlement. His calm crackled to life. "Greer, this is Station Command. We've got your transport beacon outside the perimeter. What's your status?" Landon looked at the 2 unconscious aliens taking up most of his cargo space. He thought about protocols, about quarantines, about the 100 regulations he was about to break. "I'm bringing in 2 survivors," he said. "They need medical attention, now." The silence stretched long enough that he thought they'd cut the connection. Then, "Copy that. Medical bay is standing by. You're going to have a lot of explaining to do, Greer." "Yeah," Landon muttered, watching the settlement lights grow closer. "I know." The next 72 hours blurred together. The station medic, a stern woman named Kowalski, worked around the clock with a team of xenobiologists who happened to be visiting the outpost. They set up the medical bay with equipment Landon didn't recognize, monitoring readouts he couldn't interpret. He stayed anyway, catching sleep in a chair when exhaustion forced him, bringing coffee for the medical team, doing whatever small tasks they'd let him do. "You should rest," Kowalski told him on the 3rd day. "They're stable now. Out of immediate danger." "I'll rest when they wake up," Landon said. She gave him a look he couldn't quite read. "They're not your responsibility, you know." "Yeah," he said. "I know." But he stayed. On the 4th day, the taller one opened her eyes. Landon had been dozing in his chair when the change in the monitoring equipment woke him. He jerked upright to find her watching him, those crystalline eyes tracking his movement with obvious intelligence. "Hey," he said softly. "Welcome back." She made a sound, soft and uncertain. Her hand, delicate despite its size, with long, slender appendages, moved weakly toward him. Landon stood and moved closer, letting her see he meant no threat. "You're safe. You're in a medical facility. We've been taking care of you." She spoke, her voice like wind chimes, the universal translator embedded in the medical bay picking up her words with a slight delay. "My sister? Right here." Landon gestured to the next bed, where the other alien lay sleeping peacefully. "She's stable. You both are." Relief flooded her expression, so human in its emotion that something in Landon's chest tightened. She tried to sit up, failed, her body still too weak. "Easy," he said, adjusting her bed so she could see her sister better. "You've been through hell. Give yourself time." You saved us. It wasn't a question. Found you. The doctors did the saving. You came alone. Into the dark. For strangers. Landon shrugged, uncomfortable with the weight in her words. Couldn't exactly leave you there. She studied him for a long moment. I am Vessa. My sister is Kaille. Landon. He offered a small smile. Welcome to Station Meridian, middle of nowhere, Ice Planet Edition. Something that might have been amusement flickered across her features. Then her eyes closed, exhaustion pulling her back under. But her hand, still extended, remained near his. He took it gently. Rest. I'll be here. Kaille woke the next morning, her recovery faster than anyone had predicted. The two sisters spoke rapidly in their own language, Vessa translating through the universal system, filling in gaps, explaining what had happened. They were explorers, Landon learned. Part of a scientific expedition studying ice worlds when their shuttle had malfunctioned. They'd crashed 3 days before he found them, their supplies destroyed in the impact. They'd been preparing to die when he arrived. Your world, Kaille said, sitting up now with remarkable strength. It is not yours originally, yes? Your people come from warmer places? Yeah, Landon said. We're not built for this kind of cold, but we adapt. You left safety to help us, Vessa said quietly. This is valued among your kind? Landon thought about that. About Earth and the world he'd left behind. The mistakes he'd made. The reasons he'd ended up out here in the first place. Should be, he said finally. Doesn't always work out that way, but it should be. The sisters exchanged a glance that held entire conversations. Over the following weeks, they healed. Landon found himself spending more and more time in the medical bay, then in the quarters assigned to them once they were cleared for release. He brought them food, carefully researched to match their nutritional needs, and helped them navigate the bewildering complexity of human settlement life. They taught him words in their language. He taught them poker, though they beat him mercilessly once they understood the rules. They told stories of their homeworld, a planet of crystalline forests and singing ice. He told them about Earth, about mountains and oceans, about the weight of gravity that felt like home. Why are you here? Vessa asked one evening. They were in the common room, the settlement's sparse attempt at recreation. So far from your world? Needed a change, Landon said, which was true enough. You ran from something. It wasn't a question. He looked at her, really looked, taking in the intelligence in those multifaceted eyes, the understanding that came from someone who knew what it meant to be far from home. Yeah, he admitted. I ran. Made some bad choices back home. Hurt some people I cared about. Figured it was better to go somewhere they'd never have to see me again. Kaille leaned forward, her expression intent. And you think distance heals this? I think distance keeps me from making it worse. Foolish, Vessa said, but there was no judgment in it. Running solves nothing. Maybe not, Landon said. But staying was killing me. The silence that followed was heavy but not uncomfortable. Finally, Kaille spoke. Our people have a saying, the ice remembers, but spring forgives. You cannot forget your past, Landon, but you can grow beyond it. Is that what you're doing out here? Growing? Vessa smiled, an expression he'd learned to recognize. We were growing. Then we crashed. Now we are saved by someone who thinks he is beyond saving. Perhaps the universe has a sense of humor. Or terrible timing, Landon muttered. The weeks turned into months. The sisters' ship sent a recovery team, but there were complications, diplomatic channels to navigate, protocols for first contact situations, endless bureaucratic tangles. Vessa and Kaille remained at the station, officially as cultural liaisons, unofficially as guests who'd become friends. More than friends, if Landon was honest with himself. It started with small things. Vessa's hand on his shoulder when he was tired. Kaille saving him a seat at meals. The way they both lit up when he entered a room. How their language had evolved to include his name, spoken with a warmth that made his chest ache. He tried to ignore it. Tried to tell himself it was gratitude, proximity, the simple mathematics of spending time together. But the truth had a way of refusing to be ignored. He was falling for them. Both of them. The realization hit him one evening when all three of them were watching the aurora through the observation dome. Vessa was explaining the atmospheric science, her voice animated. Kaille was laughing at his questions, teasing him gently. And Landon felt something he hadn't felt in years. Happy, safe, home. We need to talk, Vessa said suddenly, her tone shifting. Landon's stomach dropped. Okay. They moved to a private corner, away from the other settlers. Kaille took one of his hands. Vessa took the other. Our ship arrives in 2 weeks, Kaille said. We will have to leave. I know. Landon tried to keep his voice steady. I figured that was coming. We don't want to go, Vessa said. Not without you. He stared at her. What? Among our people, Kaille said carefully. Partnerships are not always simple. Often they are complex. Multiple bonds, multiple connections, all valued equally. We know humans are different, Vessa added quickly. We know you may not understand or may not want. We want you to come with us, Kaille interrupted. Both of us, together, as partners, if you will have us. Landon's mind went blank. He looked between them, seeing the hope and fear mirrored in their expressions. You're serious. Completely, Vessa said. We have grown to care for you deeply, both of us, in ways that are not simply gratitude or friendship. You saved our lives, Kaille said. But more than that, you showed us kindness when you had no reason to. You stayed with us. You made us laugh. You made this frozen world feel warm. And if you think we haven't noticed how you look at us, Vessa added with a smile, you are far less perceptive than we believed. Landon felt heat rise in his face. I didn't want to assume. Don't assume. Decide. Kaille's grip on his hand tightened. Come with us. See our world. Be with us. Or stay here, and we will respect that choice. But know that we are asking. He thought about Earth, about the life he'd left behind, about running and guilt and all the reasons he'd come to this ice ball in the first place. Then he thought about Vessa's laugh, about Kaille's terrible poker face, about the way they'd become part of his days, essential as breathing. Yes, he said. I'll come with you. The joy that flooded their faces was worth everything. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparations, paperwork, negotiations with his contract, tearful goodbyes with the few friends he'd made at the station. Kowalski pulled him aside the day before departure. You're sure about this? She asked. No, Landon admitted, but I'm sure I want to try. She nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think they're lucky to have you, and you're lucky to have them. Yeah, he said. I really am. The ship arrived on schedule, a sleek vessel that made human technology look primitive by comparison. Vessa and Kaille stood on either side of him as they prepared to board, their hands finding his naturally. Scared? Kaille asked. Terrified, Landon said honestly. Good, Vessa said, squeezing his hand. So are we. They walked up the ramp together, leaving the ice world behind. As the ship lifted off, Landon looked back at Station Meridian, that frozen outpost that had been his hiding place, his penance, his chance at something new. The settlement fell away below them, swallowed by white, and Landon found he wasn't running anymore. He was moving forward, with them, toward something he didn't quite understand but was ready to discover, toward home. If you have enjoyed the story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.